Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Here the Watchman. And on this edition of the Watchman's Report, I am really excited to have Mr. John Reagan with us. John is a retired Air Force captain. He's one of those guys that's really in the know about what's going on. And we're here in the lobby of the Hilton DFW Hotel, which in just 2 days, the Hear the Watchman conference will begin. John is one of the presenters there. He has knowledge about things that most of us have no idea about. And John, I want to thank you for joining me today. And what is it that you're going to bring to Hear the Watchman?
Well, let me take a rabbit hole first thing.
There you go.
When Becky and I first moved to Dallas County back in '99, we found a group called the Eclectic Viewpoint, which brought speakers in. And one of these was a guy from Rockwall, which is the county east of Dallas, if you take I-30. And they were doing a dig at this buried rock wall. In fact, Rockwall County was named after the wall. There were 3 settler families there, and they were trying to decide who to name it after, and they went and one of them went to sink a well, hit the wall, and they decided to call it Rockwall. Real original. So back then I didn't know as much about giants and things as I do now, or I would have been paying more attention. But this wall, when it was built, was 50 feet high and enclosed an area of 3.5 by 5.5 miles. So roughly 20 square miles.
Wow.
Huge. And you know, the mainstream scientists want to call it a natural formation, even though there's no other rock like it around anywhere. And of course, with natural formations, you get straight lines and right angles.
Right.
So if you see a map of this wall, the east side of it follows the terrain, but the north, west, and south sides, straight lines, right angles, and in fact, in the southwest corner, it's like when you do the symbol for a right angle, it's enclosed.
Wow.
With right angles. And when I was there on site, they had dug about 20 feet down. And to even get down that far, they first had to get through a layer of blue-green shale, which they believe was deposited at the end of the last ice age. You might say Noah's flood, you know, however you want to put it. And that was pretty close to the top. And they were down about 20 feet. So I got to examine it up close and personal. In the months after I was there, they found stairs, and based on the way they were laid out, it suggested that whoever was there was 7 to 9 feet tall.
Wow.
And they also found 1 or 2 of the stones that had metal rings embedded in them.
And we hear nothing about this.
Of course not. You know, they don't want to talk about it. In fact, if I remember right, the guy that was doing the dig had been visited by a certain religious organization on the north side of the Mediterranean, if you know what I mean. So these metal rings were made of an alloy that included tin. So I was wondering, where's the nearest tin to Dallas? And the 2 closest sites I found, one was in Alaska, the other was in the UK.
Wow.
So you don't hear about that.
And that's the thing. We don't hear a word about that stuff. And you know, that's the whole thing about the reason we do these conferences is because we want you to hear the truth. You know, and that's really interesting. And that it's just, I know Rockwall's not far at all from here. I mean, it's just it's right next door.
You know, the other side of the bridge. You have that lake east of Dallas. And unfortunately, there's no site to visit right now because they were only going down one side of the wall, and we had a nice big rain. And if you know Texas soil, it expands. So the wall collapsed. They just covered it in. They weren't able to get the money to restart that. But a lot of interesting things on that. There was a History Channel special on it a few years ago where scientists came in and did a nice big hit piece. So if you don't know certain things about the wall, you'd think that they had a slam dunk saying it's just natural.
Right.
Because they dug up a portion, They drilled into it, and they took those to a local university, and all the magnetic lines from when the stone was formed were the same, which in their mind means that it's natural. Of course, they don't talk about the straight lines, the right angles, the metal rings, nor the fact that it looks like these stones were cast.
Yeah, of
So
course
it
it is.
was kind of like,
Yeah.
a form of concrete.
Right. Well, it's the same thing that, Steve Quayle talks about that.
Yeah.
And L.A. Marzulli talks about the same thing.
So if you're making these, naturally the magnetism's all going to line up because you're going to be making them the same direction to go put them in the wall.
Right. Interesting. And so, are you going to be talking about that here? Or what are you bringing here this week?
I'm not going to have time to talk about that.
Right.
But what I will be doing, I've got part of the post already made. I've got some more links to add to it. So it's going to be on my website. The blog's actually on the financialstateoftheunion.com, which is my book website. But I don't like typing in long URL names. So my ministry site, which I'm still working on, so pardon the sawdust, EZE33.org stands for Ezekiel 33.
Okay.
That's the physical Watchman.
Awesome.
And there's a tab there called News, which will take you right there. And the March 29th post will be about Rockwall. And there's a couple of presentations I've put up on there that I haven't had a chance to listen to them yet, but just scanning through it, looks like it was right in line with what I know. So I'll also post links that have pictures and things so you can get an idea of what it was like. Now,
That's fantastic. I mean, see again, folks, that's the kind of stuff you're going to hear here. You can't come in person now. We are completely sold out. I apologize for that, but it is the way it is. But you can go to our website, which is www.hearthewatchman.com. Click the purchase live stream. You get the live stream plus 30 days of viewing, so you can really study the stuff that John and the other speakers are going to be presenting here. Avail yourself of this information. This is cutting edge information. John, thank you so much for joining us today. Folks, if you're having any trouble finding John's work, go to hearthewatchman.com. Click the contact button, get a hold of me, and I'll put you directly in touch with him. And John, you also are a regular guest radio host on USA Prepares, isn't that correct?
I'm a regular weekly guest, and then when Vincent needs to take time off, he calls me up as guest host.
And how can people find that?
That's on Genesis Communications, so if you go to gcnlive.com.
And then just USA Prepares.
And you can either listen live or they've got free podcasts, either way.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in just a day, and we'll spend some more time together. Folks, thanks for being with us today. Have a wonderful afternoon. We're here from Dallas, Texas, where right now the weather is wonderful. It was a little dicey last night, but today it's wonderful. Hope you're going to come on out and see us, or at least see us on live stream. God bless each and every one of you.